Hi, welcome to Laura's View and Tarot 2. I am really glad you're here. Today's date is Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. I want to take a look at a recent decode that was done by another trigger and looking at a Melania tweet as a possible comm. And we're going to ask for some insights and information about this, including the possibility of a connection between that comm, a later tweet a few days later by our 45th president, and then other subsequent events. So I think there may be a tie-in that the universe could inform us about, and it's definitely worth following in this rabbit trail, I think. So come with me. It's not a deep one. We'll do it together. Okay, here we go. I'm taking you to a compilation I have. If it interests you to look at in closer detail, there'll be a Facebook link in the video description box. If not, just follow along as I go through this, okay? Here we go. All right, now on the 13th of September, Donald J. Trump over on Truth Social had a post up with just this notation, which initially some people thought was the pound sign and wondered about it. And the response from Elon Musk was very interesting. He reposted it over on his platform with the popcorn signal. And then it was noted that the in chess notation, the checkmate notation is this pound sign. Okay, I have that straight from the internet. I'm not a chess player, so I had to look it up. And if you'd like to see what it originally looked like as far as his posting, I don't have the original, so someone inserted this, but it really was this way. You can tell that it was posted on September 13th at 3:16 p.m. in case those numbers have relevance and meaning to those of you that look at numeric type of decodes. Now, on the 10th, 3 days earlier, Melania had this post over on X, which just seemed to be a speaking about an attempted harm to her husband and some of the subsequent events. Okay, but going back here, when we go down here to the Rumor Mill News where this is posted and the decode about it, I'd like to read most of this to you. Even though it seems that Melania is merely questioning why they didn't stop the shooter before it happened, it's actually a comm or communication. Of course, she is deeply concerned and bothered by what happened, but she isn't the type to start speaking out about things. Okay, and the decoder goes on to talk about, and they have earlier posts if you want to start reading some of the information they have shared. But he continues to say this message from Melania straight up telling the ones who tried to kill Trump that they know who was behind it. You see, they hid behind some other events and people. The actual shenanigans gang was behind that. And this poster says, this is her saying, we've unlayered the final layer and now know who was behind it. So they continue to say that Melania is running interference for her husband, and I love it. Okay, so let's take a look at that with the tarot cards, because on the 10th, Melania puts up a tweet that may indeed be a comm saying, hey, we know now who the final authority and people behind this event really were. And they hid behind, things like the CloudStrike shenanigans, and then the supposedly the power outage with Microsoft and all sorts of other things that were kind of designed to distract and deter. And so the her feeling is, his or her, I'm sorry, I don't know who this person is that this was a communication about that, saying we have peeled back the onion to the final layer, we've got you now. And then the checkmate 3 days later by Trump, I think may have been saying, and I followed through and it's a done deal. And then Elon says, let's get the popcorn. And then on the 15th, 2 days later, there's an attempt on Mr. T. So I'm wondering if this flow of events has a connection, and that's what we're going to ask. Is the flow of events that I'm mentioning in this video from the 10th with Melania, the 13th with the checkmate symbol by Donald Trump, and then the subsequent attempted harm on the 15th. Is there a flow here going on? As I said, a lot of things, we know that they're not as far beneath the surface as they used to be, but we're still not, as I said, not able to see over the fence. So we're just getting some ideas that things may have a connection. So there will be a yes or no element to this card read. I am asking if there is a connection between, was there communication and a possible connection between the tweet by Melania Trump, which looked like AI to me, but I'm not an expert. And then the pound sign social media posting by Donald Trump 3 days later, and other events that have followed subsequently. So we're looking, was there communication and a connection between those events? I think the popcorn symbol by Musk is interesting, but not really relevant to a flow of events. Other than, I think he was kind of indicating that, yeah, you know, I'm ready to celebrate. I'm ready to move on. I'm on this team. So let's find out communication, connection. Okay, I'm going to change the camera. You can watch me work with the cards, and we'll find out together what the universe wants us to know. So we're asking for the possibility of a communication and connection between the post by Melania or the person seen in the public eye as Melania. Whoops, that jumped out. We've got the Page of Swords showing up there. Page of Swords usually indicates truth. So we kind of already got an informal answer from the universe. I'm going to set this off to the side. Truth card, boom. Okay, universe, let's wait till the whole thing's down here, okay, for the rest of it. So was there a communication? Yes. And connection between the Melania and subsequent tweets I talked or social posts I discussed, with information and insights appreciated about everything. Okay, we have the Nine of Wands and the Eight of Pentacles. Recent past cards, the Queen of Cups. Then we have the Seven of Wands, lots of events going on here. Okay, moving forward, we have the Four of Pentacles, King of Swords, which is quite often a Mr. T card for me, and the Ten of Wands showing up again for the near future. Okay, we are coming close to some changes, guys. This card keeps hinting at that. Don't see a tower, do we? Not yet. I'm going to get 4 more cards. We'll see what shows up. But we were asking, was there connection and communication going on? Since this card is a card of truth, even without a hard yes in the form of an ace, we're going to just say we've already got an answer. Now let's look at more. Since we got the answer here, we almost have these being both working as clarifiers about it. So there's a lot of events going on right now. And if you notice, this guy has a bandage around his head, and it might cover the part of the ear that was struck by Mr. T. And Melania was speaking about how did that shooter, why were they allowed to be up there? We could ask the same thing about the recent event on the golf course, because apparently that shooter was laying there for 12 hours waiting for, you know, the golf participants to come through. And that was supposed to be a last minute thing. That gets into a whole different ball of wax. But let's go back to Melania. Was she sending a comm? Was she, you know, because there's a lot of communication that goes on through symbolism between the white hats and the deep state. And so we've got our yes, a lot of events going on about that. And they did a lot of work to uncover and unravel the chain of events, the provenance of it accurately. So the Queen of Cups here for the recent past just talks about using your emotional intelligence to discern and decipher. And this energy kind of indicates our Melania on this. I think very appropriately. So the Queen of Cups is showing up there. The she's also a card of compassion. And so that is the shining attribute that comes along with this card. So that's why I'm saying this is the person seen in the public eye as Melania that was doing that video, very compassionate and indicating her quite nicely. Now, in the current, we've got events going on, okay? The White Hats have the high ground for the events that are happening. They're staying on top of it and ahead of it quite nicely, okay? In fact, there is some chatter in the alt media community that that first attempt at the rally was allowed to happen because it kind of prevented a much more devastating action from happening later. So it was kind of like, letting the pressure off a little bit. Events coming up. So interesting. I don't know if they saw that through Operation Looking Glass or what was going on, but interesting to consider that may have been an element of what happened and why it was allowed to happen. And we see that sometimes, that you do one thing to keep a worse thing from happening, whether it's car maintenance or what have you. It happens. Let's look at the near future for insights and information about this chain going on. Melania is saying, hey, we know who did it. We're wise to you. 3 days later, Trump, checkmate. And then another attempt on his life. So back and forth, which isn't going to alter the White Hats' resolve at all. Moving forward, they are being very careful with their resources, they being the White Hats. I think also the deep state's happy to be more with the fiat dollar pretty much being defunct. Their mountains of cash are quickly turning into toilet paper. And but the White Hats are doing what they need to do with the focus that they need to do it. Because again, the King of Swords showing up here for our insights and information. And he's indicating that, again, another truth card and diplomacy. Using, not going, my son used the phrase one time, you don't take an elephant gun to kill a mosquito. In other words, you don't overreact. And so that marshaling, you're using the adequate resources to keep events flowing the way you want, even if you don't have a total prevention or what have you. Very wise and smart, and part of this, because this is a huge undertaking, this cleaning this plane of existence, our world up from entrenched and evil that's had millennia to do what they do. So yeah, they've got to be careful with their resources, but they're very, very wise about it. The other insight card here, the 10, just says, we're almost at the end of this, guys. Hang in there. Now, I don't know and don't claim to know if the ending is talking about just simply how the balloting is going to be done in less than 2 months here in the United States, or if there's bigger events that are going to be shaking up our plane of existence in a very wonderful way. When it does happen, I have no doubt and no worry that the big changes that are coming are positive. Absolutely. They may be surprising, but ultimately they're very positive. So I don't get worried when I know that things are kind of coming to a tipping point where things will really truly change. Let's get more cards and see what's going on. We got the Queen of Swords, Page of Wands, one of my little unofficial White Hat cards. We have another 10 showing up, the 10 of Swords, and more swords showing up with the 8 of Swords. Okay, let me just kind of pause here quietly and get a little bit of a download. I'm trying not to stop the video and get some insights from the cards. Because this is looking ahead. Okay, so we've got some justice coming, some truth telling, words and written, spoken, media type truth coming out. The Page of Wands, optimism, cautious optimism. We have reason to be, because even though they're making when they do have to respond, they being the White Hats, when they do have to respond, they are not overreacting. They're responding, in a very solid and well thought out way. Page of Wands says in the near future, we're going to have some truths, I think maybe some declass and discoveries that are going to come out. And they're going to eventually lead towards a justice type of situation for some of the members involved. Now, the Queen of Swords is always talking about, the Queens usually, I think they give advice. The Queen of Cups says use your emotional intelligence. The Queen of Swords says use your common sense, clear thinking. Don't let your emotions cloud your vision and your insights and what's moving forward. So I think they both have valuable pieces of advice to share with us when they show up in a read. The 10 of Swords is just indicating, again, endings are coming, some endings are coming, and some of them are actually going to be involved leaving the earthly plane, but I'm not getting a sense that's for anybody that is known and beloved in the white hat community. Just that as things change, there are going to be people that leave the earthly plane. The 8 of Swords is telling us again that while we can do our clear thinking, use all your available information and insights to make a decision on when to move forward, when to advance, when to change your perspective, because she's very willingly been bound, but she's not tightly bound. She can move as soon as she wishes to. And so she's using her other senses to decide when to make that move. A lot of water showing up in these cards today. My eyes are being drawn to the water. And that's part of tarot reading. You look at what is my eye being drawn to that maybe it normally doesn't. So I don't know what that's got to tell us. I don't claim to know. I just know water, water, water everywhere. So maybe, maybe watch the water, something we ought to be doing too, because this is moving forward, insights, information we're having. So I'm going to say that it's telling us to watch the water moving forward. There's some truths and discoveries coming that we can be cautiously optimistic about, even though ultimately some of those discoveries are also going to result in people leaving this plane of existence. And, if it's their time, it's their time. Stuff happens. Let's recap. We were looking at a series of social media posts on the part of Melania and Donald Trump, and then comparing those with some recent events and wondering if there's a connection. Basically, I went back to the first of that series, which was the September 10th posting by Melania Trump, which was decoded on Rumor Mill News, and I have a link for that in the compilation, that just asserted that she was actually doing the communication, letting people know that they had really gotten to the bottom of some information that was very well hidden, but ultimately was discovered. And then moving forward with the checkmate symbol tweet by Donald Trump, and then other events that happened subsequently. So we said, hey, is there a connection here? Was there communication, and is there a connection? This jumped out, this card, and a lot of times the Page of Swords card indicates truth. So that was the universe before I ever laid cards down was saying, yeah, there's a connection here. It was communication, there's a connection. So that's an indication to you that we can sometimes ascertain yeses or affirmative responses from the cards without getting those hard yeses with the aces. So the situation, you notice my little guy in the card here, he's got a bandage around his head. And so Melania was talking about when her husband had the attempt on his life in the rally, and didn't he end up with a bandage for a time? So I thought that was kind of, again, some of that dry humor that the universe can just put out there, and you may pick up, you may not. The indication that they did a lot of digging. They had to really dig deep to get to some truths that they discovered that were on the part of the shenanigans gang. They had assumed they were very well hidden and good, in, doing great. No. The recent past card, I think this was Melania actually in the reading, and the Queen of Cups is always talking about using your emotional intelligence. Her shining attribute is compassion, and I don't know of a more gentle and light-filled first lady we've ever had than Melania Trump. So I think that was a good indication of her current situation. There's still some strife going on. There's still some Elements of the shenanigans and those that commissioned or participated in them that are being dealt with, but the White Hats have the high ground. And if it looks sometimes like they don't, it is not the case, not at all. Now, moving forward, the White Hats are going to continue to be careful with their resources. They are going to make sure that they respond to the extent necessary to keep the plan advancing in the way that they want it to happen for us to rid ourselves of some resident evil on this plane of existence. So again, very well thought out. And that's why sometimes something's allowed to happen, but not be as devastating as was planned originally. So, you know, letting the pressure off a pressure cooker a little bit. That's what I thought of. All right, now the King of Swords was our strongest information insight card, and this is a Mr. T card, especially in this reading here. And just letting us know that events are going to continue pretty fast paced, but we're coming to a time when really there is going to be some drops, disclosures, and more information available to us. The additional, moving on, looking into the farther into the near future, but not nearly as impactful, because unless it's a major arcana, which these weren't, these are still items that can be somewhat in flux, okay? The Queen of Swords, to me, was indicating that we need to have clear thinking as we absorb and take in information and look at events and occurrences that do come within our purview. So clear thinking is always indicated. And the Page of Wands was a beautiful card because it talks about cautious optimism and discovery. So we are, and he's kind of, he's my unofficial, you know, I laugh because it's the one real white hat that's in all the tarot cards. He truly has a white hat. And so, yeah, we've got some disclosures coming, and we have reason to be cautiously optimistic that even though these aren't major arcanas, what they're saying is good things are coming. Absolutely. Now, the final ones. So these, again, not major arcanas, but just an indication that when those events happen that truly transform and change our world, there is going to be an element of leaving the earthly plane. I didn't see this as informing us that that's what has to be, our concern has to be that for some of the major White Hat and Alliance members that we know and love so much, but just simply an acknowledgement that when these changes come, it is going to involve, and it may just simply be as they start televising the analog recordings they have of some of the, you know, tribunals and stuff that's been going on, we're going to see and be aware of the passing of individuals. And I hope so, because I was asking just today, you know, there's a non-interference clause in the universe. So it never hurts to just put out there what you would like help with. And I said, I was asking for divine and even off-world help in removing the placeholders, the 2.0s, the clones, the humanoids, the what have you. Let's, if we need to mourn the passing of a certain whoever, you know, let's do it. If we need to celebrate that they've been gone, let's do it. But especially where these placeholders are often allowed to wield the assets and have the same rights that the original did, they're just as bad. They're just as bad. So I was asking that they be gone. And so this card actually, to me, even though it does mean, you know, kind of an ending, and an ending that could possibly include a loss of life, the maybe it's the going away of the so many clones and doubles that are, you know, in our world in places of power and authority. So yeah. And hey, if they've been a good 2.0, let's celebrate them and let them continue on their path. Okay, but if they haven't been, because, you know, we hear that the White Hats don't use clones, but that the deep state does. So if they haven't been, let's get them out of there and get good people in there. But because I can think of some 2.0s that I know are 2.0s that are doing nice things for this plane of existence. So it doesn't mean remove them, but let's unmask them. Let's know, you know, who they are. I've been playing the part of blah, blah, blah for 3 years, and here's what I've done positively, as, you know, in that role, and we can celebrate and go on. Again, using all our senses to discern, because it's a tricky world and the information coming out is still often quite muddied, and a truth is obscured. A lot of cards, my eye was drawn to water. That was showing up in so many of the cards. Water. Let me show you a couple more. Water. Water. And so I think the advice from the universe is watch the water. So there may be some upcoming events that happen on or very near large bodies of water, and we'll kind of know that could be the case. So that's it for this video. I thank you so much for your time and attention as we go down rabbit trails and see if there's a connection between A, B, C, and D. And quite often there is, at least to some extent, a connection, and it's always fascinating to see what the universe feels like they can share with us. So that was what was shared in today's video. And that's it for this video. So I thank you so much for your time, your attention, your viewership. One more thing, as I said yesterday in yesterday's video, if you have subscribed, thank you. Would you check and make sure you don't need to resubscribe, because YouTube plays with my numbers. Same thing with the likes. They don't all get recorded. So do what you can to maintain your subscribership if you choose to, and to be persistent about liking the video if that's what you want to do. And if you don't, that's okay. I still love you. And speaking of that, if you're willing to receive it, until next time, I send you love, light, and I wish for you everything bright. Bye. Watch the water.